Crypto leads and crypto crackheads. Here's a Bitcoin and Ethereum video for you. Today is Tuesday, August 24th, 2021, and turn it up to ×2 playback speed. Let's get initiation of timification going here. There are 7 days left in this month. Bitcoin cannot afford to close a monthly candle under the monthly 10 and continue its run up on a monthly scale. However, what that can mean moving forward in the next maybe 3 to 4 months is that this month could close in 7 days around the point that it opened, creating a doji candle, or this month, so this is a month candle here, or this month could close red, having dropped within these next 7 days, even going into next week, the weekly candle, which happens on Sunday. So the weekly candles are not in perfect alignment with the end of the month, right? So this week ends, the last full week in the monthly candle ends in 5 days, but the month ends in 7, right? So this month could easily close red and everything would be fine as long as it closes above the monthly 10. When I mean fine means bull run can still continue on a monthly scale, not as in it increases every day starting tomorrow, on a monthly scale. Perhaps all-time highs New Year or before-ish. So a red month here wouldn't be that big of a deal. And a second red month that actually wicks below the monthly 10 just by a smidge. So let's make that line red. So that red line here is the 10 exponential moving average of Bitcoin's price. So let's say this month flips red. The next month goes below, but closes up and closes red. So you essentially have two really skinny candles like this with wicks, right? Maybe not dojis, but thinner candles. And then it could end up being dojis. So even two red candle dojis above this 10 would still be good. And the month, and if that were to happen, the month of August is red, September's red, but above the 10, that would likely mean October would be a blast off month. All right, but not getting too far ahead of ourselves here. On the monthly scale, what is this correction going to do in regards to this main idea of the monthly 10 and its importance, as Bitcoin price probably does come back down to check it before a continued blast off? Mostly because it closed under it. So once it goes above, it probably needs to retest it or get very close. So what does this, what would, zooming in on this chart, how would that play with this line, which is coming in right or just under 39,000. Next month, it'll be as high as 40K. So what does this mean? Let's go to this chart, zoom in. I'll go to the 12-hour chart with only the 10 EMA on, but I have drawn in other key EMAs and horizontal supports. So let me show you what the heck I have going on here. It's a fairly clean chart, but let me describe this. So each of these candles is 12 hours. I am enjoying the 12-hour chart on Bitcoin because I feel that the 10 moving average of it gets things pretty right. When you have a candle close below, you'll get a little bit of downside, maybe not much. Here was a fake out of that. Closed below, got a little bit of downside. So now you can expect until a candle closes above that 10, you're going to get downside until you get a close above. It's really that simple on this 12-hour chart. You're not using the 12-hour chart on Bitcoin, at least, you know, a little bit. I think you'd be making a mistake not looking at it. It's a pretty darn good chart, and the 2 days been getting things really right too. But we'll save that for another day. So we're staring at the 12-hour chart, but I've drawn in other key EMAs that often get huge signals of support. So over a run, each of these are very common points off of which price bounces, maybe wicks below, but on a weekly scale comes back above and closes above before continuing higher. And so what you can see here is So, I mean, you can read it, right? 4 hour, 200 EMA, weekly 10, weekly 21. So this line here is the daily 200 EMA, which I might want to put up here. Actually, right there. And this elliptical here is representing the golden cross from the daily 200, which is this line, and the daily 50, which is about up here, right along the line with the 4 hour 200 EMA. The 4 hour 200 EMA and the daily 55 EMA are typically well in line. So that would be an EMA golden cross on a textbook golden cross definition of MAs. But typically, price likes to come back down and check into the zone after a daily golden cross. It happens often. And what also often happens, but I've already barked up this tree so many times, I'm not going to spend another video on it right now. But if you haven't watched my previous Bitcoin videos, I'm trying to give warning that this could just be a simple lower high before sub 30 price. This easily could. I've made, so look at my previous 2 to 3 Bitcoin videos, watch it on ×2 speed. I'm not going to go over that here. However, a lot of the golden cross rechecks as price falls back into the cross, the area that it's crossed. A lot of them, I'm coming, making a video while my wife was cooking. A lot of those retests, they end up becoming failures and it falls below. And it takes until the second golden cross, so something like this. If this were the daily 200, I'll make it orange. And this were the daily 55, price coming back from above, EMA golden cross, dipping back below, coming back across, something like that. It often takes till the second attempt. Price really skyrockets, comes back down, tests it, breaks below, comes back up. It's that second attempt that often that golden cross is sustained. It's very, very common, so just a heads up. However, this video is not about bearish, more bearish targets. This is more mid, just solid targets that could form a significantly higher low on Bitcoin. So this is a clear horizontal of support. This daily 200 EMA is a monster support zone. Weekly 21 is monster support. Weekly 10, monster support. 4 hour 200 EMA, very strong support, which is along lines with the daily 55. So the 4 hour 200 EMA counts as the daily 55, okay, for these purposes, loosely. So what you can see here is you have a huge zone of just insane EMA support in this box. And just below it, you have a horizontal support, right? So there's going to be a lot of buyers. There are going to be a lot of buyers stepping in here defending this, which would tire down the bears. And if the bears break through and get to just below this pink box, they're going to hit another support made out of a horizontal, though, where even more buyers are going to be stepping in. And the likelihood of a bounce, above 39.3 is pretty high. 39.3 or above. So for Bitcoin to only come back down in this box, make a higher low, staying above this date or this first higher low here, the chance of that is extremely high, given that Bitcoin went all the way up to 50K. Went much higher than I had anticipated, therefore I'm moving up my most probable targets. I honestly just have a hard time seeing Bitcoin come below this box. Now, what's also special about this box is that's where the monthly 10 is coming in. The monthly 10 right now is chilling at about 39.3 right here. Next month, it'll come up and to about 40, assuming price doesn't tank, within the next 7 days. That tick will come up here, and then you have a monthly 10 EMA support. However, a lot of times when the monthly 10 is retested, which it probably will be retested at some point, but it could be after Bitcoin's already over 100K, who knows? But I would say it's going to happen sooner than later. So if the monthly 10 is coming right at the bottom of this box right here, a lot of times wicks down do happen, but a close of the month closes above. So a lot could happen in a month. So even in that original, where I started on this video on the monthly, this could also mean price movement down to 35.5 land on a wick, like, 3 really bearish days, then a strong correction near the end of the month, and the month closes somewhere about here, late September, let's say, next month. That could all happen in the month of September. And since we're approaching, let's say this is the beginning of a dip, right? Because it's happening with 7 days left in this month, it is completely possible that next month does 2 different things. It first goes down, hits lower end targets like 35, because it's happening near the beginning of the month, and the end of the month closes above here. That is completely possible too. Absolutely. So it could be a wild ride. September could be pretty wild. However, just looking at reasonable, non-super bearish price targets for the very bullish monthly scale to happen, as I began the video, price can still come back down here very easily. I would suspect that would not happen in the middle of the month, rather either near the beginning or closer to the end, so that an end of month attack to the upside could close price above the monthly 10. So I would say that if this bottom target of mine were hit, it would happen before September 8th or it would happen in the last 5 days of the month, maybe 5 to 6 days. So at the very beginning pocket or the very end pocket of September, that's for timing that I would say. Can it happen in the middle of the month? Absolutely, it could. All right. So also another importance of this this top of the box here, is that if Bitcoin were to close a daily below here, actually even higher above that line, above this daily closure right there, not the wick but the candle. So if Bitcoin were to close a day below 38, which is right where the monthly 10 is, it's gonna break its higher low daily structure doubly. Like, it's even going to break it if Bitcoin goes below 44K. I suspect that will happen. But in terms of bigger bounces, that kind of forms a higher low. That counts. I would say it would still be intact. And if Bitcoin were to break this one but form a higher low here, you can just count it like that as the second higher low in a series of 1, 2, 3. But if Bitcoin is going to potentially wick all the way down here. Okay, so if you see price in this box for any time whatsoever and a day closes, what's going to happen is that's going to bring in a lot of sellers who take a look at the market structure, the price structure in terms of the trend, and the daily trend will be down. So marking off a horizontal around 38,000, like on the nose, I would put that on my chart. Because if you see a day close below there, that significantly increases the chance that price is going to close a month below the monthly 10, because a bunch of sellers are going to step in and trade in the daily. And that will cascade into monthly, and that could lead to extended downturn. Maybe not sub 30, but price could hang out in the mid 30s or low 40s for quite some time if that were to happen. So that's a very, very integral line. I guess, I'll just draw it here, but it's coming in almost exactly at 38,000. And if you want to see why I'm saying that, if you're a little newer here, it's because you have these where the candle closed. So this is the wick, the fat part's the candle closed here. So if a daily candle closes at any time in the near future below that point, that means you're going to have a strong chance of more downside. That's going to take a couple months to dig out of. So that is a huge, huge line. Let's actually make it bigger. I have it skinny, but all right. So these are the targets that I have for Bitcoin. And another interesting thing about this line is it is also associated with price breaking below all of these important areas and the daily 200. So I guess all of these. And it might use these as resistance coming back up potentially. Because breaking these is going to also bring in a lot of sellers, which could then push price below here, which brings in more sellers, which could cascade to more and more and more sellers coming into the market. And then a gap could be filled on CME chart around 32K. So you could have a cascade effect of reasons for sellers to step into the market, and it could all happen rather quickly. So that's how those downside targets would happen, in my opinion, and how different sets of sellers would come into the market. That's what I'm looking at. However, personally, if I just had to pick a target, I'm kind of thinking I'm kind of thinking there won't be more than 1 or 2 daily closes below the daily 200, which means maybe a wick down to 39.3. 39.3 is now my personal favorite target, assuming Bitcoin does make a higher low. And that also means assuming price in this, wherever it corrects to, it corrects and it does not go below 29.2, essentially. So in that's a big safe assumption, right? That Bitcoin in this downturn will not go below 29K. Among all the areas that it could correct down to, my favorite right now is 39.3. Is that an 80% chance of happening? No. Just in my opinion, I think that's got just as strong or slightly stronger chance than any one line that you could possibly pick. Okay, so let's go to Ethereum. So the interesting thing about Ethereum is it closed last week red. And that's kind of what spooked me. So the chance of Ethereum coming back down to wick below its weekly 10 is extremely high. It needs to check that 10. It's probably going to overshoot it, come down here to this box. So I would say the bottom of the box, and I would say 2,600. A target way higher than I would have expected for a higher low. That would be my number one area. My second area for a slightly deeper correction, which might be associated with Bitcoin down to 35K, is between 2,500 to 2,400. And then where I think Ethereum might correct down to is about the 2,600 land. So those would be my targets for Ethereum. And this candle here, I just want you to note that Bitcoin closed this week green, Cardano closed that week green, bunch of coins making all-time highs. BPro, for example, and a lot of altcoins, going on 500% tears. Veracity going on a 380% tear, right? While Ethereum printed a red candle. That's kind of weird. So that's something to think about. I don't know what to make of that, but that could mean that other assets were being pumped to the upside to get people super bullish before further downside. So this kind of shows slight hallmark signs of bull trap via the other assets, but not via Ethereum so much, because this was not pushed to the upside to trap more bulls. So let me look at Cardano, I guess. And so what we got going on here is Cardano's week can end red on a wick. And if you want to look back in time on the Cardano week, a lot of your bigger downturns happen, well, at least on Bitcoin it does, but a lot of times you have a week that goes up first is the height, and it's a red week, and that starts your bigger downturn. Doesn't look like, yeah, here you go. Here's a perfect example, like this. See that? That might be what's shaping up to happen. So just be very careful if you're very bullish. I mean, this had a nice big run, and this is also when Bitcoin was struggling to get above the weekly 21 and weekly 10 for its second attempt after Bitcoin screamed up to 14K, right? Ended up going down at this point in March down to 4K, but it tried twice to get above the weekly 10, failed both. On the third time it got a coronavirus dip here. So this was the second attempt, and everything in Bitcoin is having its first attempt to get above. Now, a bullish case for Bitcoin to get above and stay above on its first attempt. Conversely, with Ethereum, what I said earlier about a red candle is that Ethereum maybe it's the weekly 21 of Ethereum. Ethereum did not. Actually, Ethereum did. Oh, Ethereum's moving averages did not cross. So the red line did not go below the yellow line, but it did on Bitcoin. Okay. So a case for Bitcoin being able to correct and stay above on its first try is the idea that Ethereum's EMAs didn't cross. Cardano's EMAs did not cross. Bitcoin's, though, did, way back here. So the idea that the other two did not might indicate they don't need extra attempts to get above their weekly 10 and 21 and stay above, which means Cardano and Ethereum are putting up a strong case that they could hold up Bitcoin, so Bitcoin stays successful above its weekly 10 EMA on its first try, as opposed to crashing down back down to 32 or making lower lows and trying again later. So those are the things on my mind across these three assets. So as you're doing, full-on technical analysis, just doing Bitcoin, I don't know if I would recommend that. I mean, Ethereum and Cardano and Bitcoin right now are all pretty tied. Let me put price back on so we can see what the heck's happening. And so you have different situations right now where Cardano and Ethereum's weekly crosses did not happen, Bitcoin's did. Cardano and Bitcoin closed last week green, Ethereum did not. Kind of, almost flip-floppy type of deal. So you have a lot of dynamic going on there, and I don't know what to make of it, honestly. It's going to be interesting to see it all play out. But what I think is going to happen is that they all have to sort themselves out in terms of making all-time highs, which means Bitcoin needs to hurry its ass up, Ethereum might need to move sideways, and Cardano might need to come down, so they can all be sorted out kind of close to their all-time highs. I almost suspect that might happen, and that's along the lines of my sine cosine videos. But these three assets are pretty tied, and right now, assuming this is the beginning of a higher low formation, hopefully, the technical analysis of all three will be a little easier, but after a higher low is formed, that's when it's going to get tricky if they're not all in line with each other. But right now, these bottom side low-end targets would probably be fairly easy to, I mean, it's never easy, but you have a higher probability, chance of guessing. So what I think might happen here is a soft landing like this. Price came and had a soft landing on its weekly 10. I think that might happen for Cardano. Price coming up, landing before getting another run. So if price is way up here, I don't know how high it went. It kind of has a soft landing, maybe wicks below down to this line to $1.70 maybe, and then rides here before taking off again. So I mean, Cardano's downside targets don't look that terribly low. How much of a correction would that be? Yeah, about a 40% correction. And does that line with my rule of thumb for the run? Yeah, about a 200% run, 40% correction. That sounds about right. So I would say downside targets for Cardano may be a $1.75 at the lower end. However, it might not wick much below its weekly 10, which might move about like this. And I think price is going to have a soft landing. So on Cardano specifically, I would just pull up the weekly 10 and stare at that. As price, lowers down to it. And what you might do for Cardano being, that's going to be your line in the sand. And it's a really good line to have, is when you're messing with the weekly 10 as a major area of interest. What you can do here is you can draw in the weekly 10. So you can remove price by hovering up where my mouse is now, clicking that. You can come over here and mark it in like this. And then you don't have to stay on the weekly time frame, but you can see how price is, flirting around with it on, let's say, the hour chart. So let's go to the 2 hour, for example. And so I just drew in that red line. Look how much activity that this weekly 10 got. Look at this. Bam, 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 bam. And when did this last pump happen? Crossing above that weekly 10 and this horizontal. So it's probably going to come back, land on it, maybe wick down below, $1.75, come land, nice soft lander. And that's what I would be seeing on the lower time frames, but viewing the EMA of a larger time frame. So price movement kind of like this is what I would be looking forward to with Cardano. All right, so those are the big three right now. And leave me a comment, let me know what your favorite downside target is, and if you had to choose a second one for a backup, which would be your second favorite. I really want you to let me know, because a lot of times, I've had VIPs look at a horizontal that ended up being the right horizontal that I totally missed. And so let me know if you think I'm missing some targets for Bitcoin or other assets, and what your favorite downside targets are. And if you're new and you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit subscribe. But if you do subscribe, Let me know if you want to be a cryptillion or a crypto crackhead. Those are the crypto pronouns that are gender neutral that this community uses. And if you're returning, hit thumbs up, leave me a quick comment, even if it's you suck, to help out the algo, and we'll see you later.